Jaxon, it's lovely to meet you. Hello.
Nice to meet you too, Steve. Thank you for having me.
It's great. I've followed you. I feel like strangely, I feel like I know you. I've read so much and seen
that's
so
good.
much out there about you. Read the OK magazine interview and everything else that's gone out. So this prior playlist of yours, did it take a long time? I know you were on a 3.5-hour journey.
No. To be fair, it took me a little while just because you didn't know what to put in it.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite sensitive with music. Like it means a lot.
Of course.
So I didn't know what to put in it, but yeah, I'm quite happy with what I sent you.
So we're going to start with Billy Porter. This is amazing. I can't believe this song's something like 4 years old already.
I know.
But what a positive track. Tell me about this song. Why does it mean so much to you?
I think I first came across Billy Porter when have you watched Pose?
Yes.
And so for me, I've only been transitioning 3 years, and when I first I was in a very heteronormative environment, like in Wigan and as a prison officer, and I was sort of in that world, but transitioning and loving this world at the same time. And I came across Pose and watched it, and it's so emotional and amazing and feel good. And I first obviously came across Billy Porter then, and he just made me laugh so much. But there's just something about being so unapologetic and so you that it helps other people feel like they can do it too. And it just massively inspired me. And when I heard this song, I just thought, that's so happy and just so feel good. And it just, every time I play it, it just makes me feel like I can do anything.
And do you agree with me that I think Pose has done so much good? I mean, there's so many people I know who've never seen it, and they go, and I would say to everyone, you must watch it. Yeah,
because it opens so many people's eyes in terms of what life was like and what it still can be like for a lot of trans people. And for gay people and for anyone who's part of the LGBT community. So I just think it's so important, but it's also it's so emotional and important, but it's also so good and so feel good at the same time.
And when you
get
so powerful. To season 3, you'll be crying your eyes out. I mean, it was like a mission to get through every episode.
I just can't cope.
Wow. The next song is Sia, another beautiful song. Tell me about this one.
It's really meaningful, in terms of what, the lyrics. And I first heard it when, have you watched the Apple TV series Visible out on television?
No.
And they released it quite a few years ago now, but it basically was a series looking back at how representation and TV have changed for gay people and trans people, and how amazing that movement when a TV character for the first time come out and said he was gay, and all of this stuff that just makes you really look back and appreciate how far we've come and how far we need to go still. And I'm very much a part of that now, and this was kind of the soundtrack to the trailer, and it just really touched me.
And how do you think we are, I mean, where are we now with visibility and role models? I mean, in your recent journey, which has been, the last kind of 5-6 years, really, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you saw people on TV that you could connect with, that you're like, that person's speaking to me?
To be honest with you, no. And that's why I think it makes me so passionate to do what I'm doing now, because I want to be as visible as possible, because visibility is the thing that reassures someone that their life is worth living. And I want to try and be that for as many people as possible. When I was a little girl, for example, I couldn't dream of being a professional female footballer. It wasn't a thing, no matter how much I loved playing football as a young tomboy.
Was it?
The closest bit of representation was the Bend It Like Beckham film.
Yes.
That was it. But then you hit 11, 12, you think we have to stop, because you can't play, you can't be a career. Whereas now little girls can watch the women and the women playing World Cups and all of these things, and they can look at that and go, oh, I can do that, I can work really hard, and that can be my career, and I can be a professional famous female footballer. I can, and it lets people, if you can't see it, you can't believe it. And so I didn't have a lot of that, definitely in terms of being a trans man. So I had to sort of really go looking for that at the age of 26.
And like you say, you've become now one of the role models. So you're out there, people will see, they'll read the interviews, and you must have had some comments. from people going thank you. You know, what kind of reaction have you received?
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. You know, from different things, whether it's articles or bits of TV or it's radios, things like this, podcasts. I've received messages like, you know, please don't stop this fight because my son is in hospital after trying to take his own life, and things like that just make me, I absolutely will never ever stop this fight. But at the same time, you know, it's not just about gender, it's about life and about transitioning in life and finding the ability and the courage to adapt to the changes that we're faced with on a daily basis, whatever that is. And I've had just as many messages off people who have, you know, left toxic relationships or done something that has they've been really afraid of, or, you know, done something that they've been really trying to get themselves to do.
The empowerment.
Yeah, like just to I just want to inspire people to find and live their own truth, whatever that might mean.
Okay.
So it makes me never want to give up, and I won't.
So this next song, Shania Twain, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. This would be a very good time because, I mean, bearing in mind, people will be listening to this who might not be aware of your story. So can we rewind?
Yeah.
And explain, if you don't mind explaining your previous.
Yeah, of course.
So you were born a little girl.
Yeah, so I was born Jessica, assigned female at birth, and just over 3 years ago, at the age of 27, I began transitioning from female to male. I did that in a prison environment as a prison officer, and sort of alongside that went on a mission to become as visible as possible, and now that's kind of what I'm doing.
And tell me about your journey. Tell me about when I've interviewed so many people on this station who said they kind of knew.
Yeah.
They really knew, like very early. They're like how I would say I knew I was gay from, however, you know, 4 or 5. You know, I remember I couldn't quite label it, but I knew. Were you the same?
Yeah. Looking back now, yeah. So there's kind of 2 answers to the question, because I didn't know until I was about 26, when I just fell into this YouTube hole and whatnot. But when I look back now, I absolutely knew from being 4 or 5, and the decisions that I would make and how I would feel and the anxieties and uncomfortable and all this stuff. But I didn't have the vocabulary to verbalise how I was feeling. So I couldn't see something to say that's me. And so I never ever, you know, associated it with I want or need to be a boy. But when you look back now at the mindset and the actions and the things that you experienced, it all fits now. Look, like 100%.
If we look at your last, you know, kind of 6 years or something, so you went the RAF, didn't you? Into the RAF?
Yeah, I joined the RAF.
Tell me
about
19.
Your
journey, and then you were in Iraq.
So I joined the RAF when I was 19. I was struggling with my mental health a lot when I was in my late teenage years, and I made that decision, and I think I was struggling with my sexuality at that point. So I joined the military, was suddenly surrounded by all of these strong, confident, rugby playing gay women, and I was like, oh my God, this is who I am. You know, they were like me. They were tomboys. You know, they weren't like really masculine, but they weren't really feminine. And they were so like, they knew who they were. And I was in a stereotypically masculine environment, and the uniform made me feel so safe and so proud. And all of those things made me really, for the first time, feel that sense of belonging. So I came out for the first time at 19, and then spent 4 years in the RAF, and then my mental health kind of took a decline again, which I know now why.
Why was that? Can I ask?
Because I spent the first 3 years flying all over the world. I was part of a tactical unit that guarded military planes and everything on it. So we went to the best places, the worst places, went somewhere for 20 minutes, went somewhere for 2 weeks. I was constantly on the move, constantly physically and mentally challenged. And when I'm like that, I'm happy. But what I didn't realise was I hadn't actually sat with Jess, and I hadn't actually realised what had made me struggle at parts of my life with my mental health. And it was only when I got posted to sort of a desk job, to do a more intelligence-based job, to play more rugby, that I had to sit with me. Right. And I wasn't going anywhere, and there was no distraction, and it didn't take very long at all for me to completely change as a person, again. So whilst I was on tour, I made the decision to hand in my notice. And when you're in the military, you have to give 12 months notice. So when I came back off that tour, your head really isn't really in the best place anyway. And I just didn't leave my mum's side for about 2 months. I just couldn't look at anybody. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I asked her at that point, and I was about 24, I asked her, is it because I want to be a boy? Like, is that why I'm so depressed? Is that what's wrong with me? And I'd only come to that conclusion because I'd started to think about like intrusive thoughts as a child of like lying in bed and saying 50 times, like, please everything be okay, I would never change anything, please don't anything bad happen, and I love being a girl. And I started thinking about all these things, and I was like, oh, you've just spent 20 years trying to convince yourself that you was happy being a girl. And I think that's because I loved who I was, and I loved Jess, and I loved Jess's life, and I love my family, and I love all this stuff. And I just didn't realise that I was just really struggling with the image. And so I just thought that I'd grown up really anxious, and really it was what I was seeing in the mirror that I was struggling with more than anything. But yeah, no. So my mum was like, no, like, of course not. You're this beautiful athletic woman. Everyone loves you for that. She used to call me Miss Congeniality. She's like, you're fantastic. And she says to me now, if she'd have turned round and said, yeah, Jess, you should have been a boy, and I'd have thought, right, well, my mum said it's all right, I'll do it, and then it was the wrong decision, she would have never forgive herself.
Sure. It's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was the general reaction? Was it a good reaction with everyone in your family?
I came out as trans.
Yeah.
So it was another 2 years after that conversation before I came out. I was sort of well into my prison service career, and the initial reaction was terrified. It was never, I'm going to disown you. It was never that. It was just instant fear, and I think that hits anyone's family or parents when you come out, and especially right now as the world is with trans people. It was just instant fear. My dad's first reaction was, well, we're going to have to leave Wigan. I'm going to end up punching everybody for abusing you.
Yeah.
And it was just terrifying.
So it's kind of fear for your
fear
future,
for me,
your safety,
like, what you're going to do, how you're going to work. Like, trans people's existence is questioned constantly within the media, and my mum was sort of looking at me then, thinking and knowing that I'd reached a point where I either do this or I don't be here anymore. Like, I'd tried for 27 years to be Jess.
Do you think it would have got that bad?
It was that bad, yeah. It was.
So you either dealt with it or you can't go on. You can't continue.
I was just at a point where I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live anymore, and I just knew that I couldn't go on as Jess. And for my family, as difficult as it was in the beginning, it was a dead daughter or a living son. And I had to do that, I had to do it, and I had to try, and I had to just go all in 100% and try and change the way people think about this, because it shouldn't be so scary to just be yourself.
We're going to go to Shania Twain. Tell me how you feel when this song plays. As we swerve into Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Go on.
This song, right, so it's so ironic because this song used to be my karaoke song. Right, and it's so ironic now because I literally just used to, like, this just reminds everyone of me, of Jess.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't sing it then, I can't sing it now. Like, absolutely not. But yeah, used to be my karaoke song, so I used to slay to this song.
Neil Diamond's next,
Yes.
Sweet Caroline. Tell me more.
So this is my dad's song. I don't know if you watched. Did you watch the recent series of Hunted?
No.
Well, basically, me and my sister won the series that's just been on Channel 4.
Yeah.
And my dad played a very big part in the series. And
Just explain the premise of this, because I've read about it, so I do know. Explain how you...
So Hunted is a TV show that puts 12 pairs on the run, and you have to try and stay on the run for 3 weeks and make it to an extraction point and evade capture from the country's best sort of set of intelligence and police and ex-military and whatnot. So me and my sister went on the run for 3 weeks. It let me and her have an absolute, like, crazy time, a childhood, just playing hide and seek for 3 weeks as Jax,
Yeah.
and really sort of getting to know each other again, and we won.
Wow. I bet you were really good at this.
It was
your
hard,
training in
but
the
it was so
past
good.
and-
Yeah, it was so hard, but it was running away, like, because we got chased so much. Running away as an adult, and just waiting for that hand to like catch you is the best feeling in the world, because you're just running for running's sake. Like, the adrenaline is brilliant. But in terms of Neil Diamond, so my dad sent the Hunters a video. We went home, and he sent the Hunters a video on Facebook of us all, and made this big speech like, "You'll never catch him, I'm the Kingpin," and like named himself as Kingpin, and really, really wound them up. But my dad is he's always been my hero. I've always wanted to be just like my dad, and this is his karaoke song.
Okay.
So it's very, very special to my family.
And you mentioned your dad. You said you've got a really good relationship. Has it been tough for him?
Yeah.
Well, can you? I know it's a personal question, but can you sum up? Because we must talk about parents.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it's. I suppose the reality is, if a parent has a girl, they think that, you know, she's going to grow up as a woman, she's going to get married, she's going to have kids and blah, blah, blah. Because that's how we're conditioned, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when that doesn't work out, and I've experienced a slice of that by being gay and not giving my parents family and stuff, but it's different for you. Can you explain the journey?
Yeah, it's been very difficult, especially for my dad, because he was terrified, and he didn't understand, and he didn't want to let go of his little girl, and as much as someone doesn't die, you do have to grieve a person. They gave birth to a daughter. They named that daughter. They had thoughts and dreams about that daughter, and that's not just going to go away. You know, that was 27. They've had 27 years of Jess. Like, I don't want that to go away, and that's 27 years of my life. So I wanted to go into it with the most understanding and an open mind as possible, because transitioning doesn't just affect me, it affects everyone around me, and I have to try and understand how this is making them feel. They've got to try and understand how it's making me feel, and I've also got to deal with how I feel, and they've got to deal with how they feel. And it was just having horrendous, awkward, hard, upsetting, angry, emotional conversations over and over and over and over again, and taking them on that journey with me, and trying to help them understand that I can't. This is, I said to them, I don't care if you call me Jess or she for the rest of my life. I don't care. All I care about is that you try, and that you accept that this is who I am, and this is what I have to do to be your child. And the journey now, like over the last 3 years, I had tried to involve them with everything, and I said to them, I don't care if you make a mistake, you know, whatever, ask me anything in the world. And every time I did, you know, a podcast or an interview or whatever, I'd be like, I'd text my mum like a big spiel, like, this is really important because of this, and visibility will save lives because of this, and look at this message I've just received off this lady, and this and just told them everything and tried to help them understand. And now they have seen that grief has turned into joy, because they've seen the light come back in their child's eyes, and they've realised that it's, you love your children unconditionally, and that's it. And not that they didn't know that before, but now they're even more of an advocate of that, because they're not just sticking up for me anymore because I'm their kid. They're absolute advocates of this, because they know how much it impacts their family and parents, and to help those people feel like they're not alone. And now, you know, my dad has done like a 10-minute talk discussing his experience before I've then done a talk.
Oh, how amazing.
You know,
so it really is a
really tried to, like,
360 affair.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I'm so grateful and proud of them.
So just before we go into the Spice Girls, this is a very important question. If there's somebody listening to you and me right now thinking, I need to go on this journey, you know, they're listening to every word thinking, this is me. What advice do you give? What's the immediate advice?
My advice, more than anything, is that life's going to be hard anyway, and it's a question of which path do you take, because it's going to be really hard if I continue to suppress it, and it's going to be really hard if I live my truth, but there's only one of those paths that's going to lead you to real happiness. So just jump.
So what's the first step?
The first step is talk. I think everything always starts with a hard, brave conversation with the closest person to you, the person who you're most terrified to talk to. That is when your life starts to change.
And if you don't have that person, I presume there are groups.
Absolutely,
and,
reach out, find Facebook groups, Instagram groups. There's so many charities. There's so much stuff out there. I don't have all that information to sort of give out right now, but
sure,
there's so much. Send me a message. There's so many people out there trying to help these people.
Great stuff. A really important question. And a great
absolutely.
Answer as well, just in case. Right, the Spice Girls. I love the way we keep swerving into a banger.
Did you like this playlist? It was emotional
amazing.
but happy.
I know.
I
but can I just say, this is my favourite Spice Girls song of them all. I love this
it's
song.
so good.
Tell me about this. Tell me about them.
I just love the Spice Girls. It sounds so I'm still obviously really yes, girl power. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just the message. The message for me is just the best thing ever. And obviously I was massively part of that when I was young, and I loved the Spice Girls, and obviously I love Sporty Spice, but then I love Scary Spice because she was a bit more fierce. And then it was just.
Which one were you? Which
one
are you?
I loved it. I don't know. I think I'm more scary, but stereotypically I was more sporty.
Right,
but then I loved David Beckham, so I was posh, but I was never posh. But I just realised I wanted to be David Beckham, so it was just I just loved the Spice Girls. It was
I love Baby,
so iconic.
I got to know her, and she swears like a trooper.
Oh, I love that.
And I thought, you know what,
I
you've
love
got
that.
up in my estimation.
I love that. I'm trying really hard not to swear right now.
You've done very well. Half an hour in, not one.
Yeah,
not
usually
one
it comes out, and I'm like, oh.
Gonna play Miley Cyrus now. This is a beautiful song, isn't it? And an anthem, really. Tell me more.
Yeah. This song is. I haven't actually listened to it for a long time. It would probably make me cry again, but I remember, and it was just before I joined the RAF, and just before I joined the RAF. When I was going through the application, I was an 18-year-old girl. I was trying so hard to be this girl from Wigan. Going out, long hair, wearing a dress, heels, just trying really hard to be Jess. And I'd started to really struggle, not really be a pleasant person to be around. And I'd had so many conversations with my mum about mental health and struggling and all this stuff. And I just thought I was just really anxious. And she'd said to me, if you don't sort this out, you're going to end up putting yourself in hospital, and you're not going to be able to get in the RAF. And that was the thing that I knew was going to sort of save me at that point, which it did. And I absolutely adore my family. So as much as I was so excited to do this, I was upset about leaving them and whatnot. And I just remember us both being in the car one day, and this song came on the radio, and we both were just crying, happy crying. But I can't really explain it. It was just the words of talking about the journey and how you're always going to have to get through something else, and get through a little bit more to get to another level and get to where you really want to be and where you deserve to be, and just go for it and work, put your heart into everything, and just you can absolutely get to the top of the mountain, but it's about enjoying the journey, because otherwise you'll miss it. And
are you there? Would you say now, are you at the top of the mountain?
I hope not. I hope not.
Really?
No.
Why?
Because I love the journey.
Right.
I had to really especially with when transitioning, and when you you first come out and you've lost that identity of Jess, but you don't know who Jax is yet. You feel like a freak. No one's going to want to be my friend anymore. No one's going to ever want to be with me again. I've not started hormones yet, and my body's still exactly the same. And but then I'm going back into a prison. I'm saying I'm Mr. Feeley now, and I'm all this stuff. You just feel so uncomfortable, and it's so hard to let people help you and see you and love you. You just want to run away and come back how I do now. you know, like 3 years later.
And how did you deal with that? Is it a question? Is it a question of you have to have a separate conversation with everybody and, like, you know, and explain what's happening with you in that whole kind of transitional phase, or did people get it, or do people not want to? How do people react?
It's hard, isn't it? Like, I just made a YouTube video so that I knew that it would spread around the prison like wildfire. But I also went into that making sure everyone knew that it was okay to make mistakes. It was okay to ask me, like, unless something's malicious, I don't care, because if we don't start having these conversations, how is anyone going to learn? You know, and I don't want people to avoid me because they're scared of getting in trouble, or they're scared of getting fired, or they're scared of upsetting me, or they're scared of whatever. So I think that put a lot of people at ease, and I think when you do that, you make people feel safe enough to talk to you. They learn very quick because they feel like it's okay, and
they get it.
Yeah, and they can really start to try and understand instead of worrying so much about saying the right thing. And that sort of made a massive difference for me, and from what people have told me, you know, staff and prisoners and friends and so many people, they love that because it makes them feel like it makes them see the human again and not all the rules around it. And I think that's been really, really important in my life moving forward. But yeah, I'm definitely not at the top of the mountain, because I had to, when we was talking about feeling like a freak, I had to start enjoying the tiny bits of getting 1% better every single day. Like, I had to get excited about the fact that I'm on a journey now where every day I'm going to look more like I want to look, and like getting really excited about like my voice going a bit deeper, or I've got one more chin hair today, or like, you know, these things that you just think I'm getting there. I'm getting there, and now, like, you know, I'm only 3 years in, so I'm excited because I'm like, oh, I'm coming into my man era now. I'm getting it. I'm getting there, and I like it, and I love it. And so I think it's about that. It's about finding the happiness in your everyday.
Okay. Well, as we go into this song, is there anything you'd like to say as an intro as we go into this? Maybe people are, you know, give me a bit of inspiration. Give me an inspirational quote.
Oh,
I'm putting you on the...
Oh, I love an inspirational quote. Let me think. Hang on. You know what? More than anything, what I want people to know is that I spent 27 years looking for something and I found it in myself. Like, you are the absolute revolution that you're waiting for.
Oh, you know, you touched a moment ago about, you know, your man era.
Yeah.
Is that what you called it, man era?
Yeah.
So can I ask, because I don't know,
You can ask
and
whatever you want, Steve. Whatever you want.
Don't say that. You'll be storming out within 5 minutes. How long does it take? Does the transition take, or is it different for everybody?
It's different for everyone. I think there's a lot of misconception around the full transition, quotes.
And what does that mean? I just wondering, like, if people don't know anything about it, it's fascinating.
I think people think there is just one way to transition, whereas for every individual, it's different. Some people may want to take hormones but not have any surgery. Yeah. Some people might want to have surgery but not take any hormones. Some people might take hormones, have some surgeries and not others. It just depends on what they want, what they need to align with how they feel. Okay. Some people might want to just identify differently to what they were assigned at birth but not medically intervene. So it's just different for every individual and how comfortable, uncomfortable they feel in terms of their own gender identity.
What decision did you make? What have you...
So I take testosterone. I'll have to take testosterone forever. Up to now, I've had chest surgery. That was massive for me. I think chest surgery is, you know, very important, especially with transmasculine people, just because it can put you in a dangerous situation, for one. But I was taping my boobs down for about a year with like rock tape. Okay. So my back was just covered in blisters.
That can't be good for you.
Yeah,
can it?
Yeah. So it makes people very uncomfortable, and that was something for me that I just wanted to be able to, you know, have no top on or build the body that I'd always wanted. So top surgery was paramount for me, and absolutely changed, like, saved my life again. You know, in terms of other stuff, bottom surgery for me, for trans men, isn't where it needs to be right now. That I would put myself through it. You know, it's like 4 surgeries. It's about 60 grand. Wow. It's a lot of risk, and so it's just not worth as much as things can bother me, it's not worth putting that massive pause on my life and that massive risk. What will happen in the future, I don't know.
Next track is you've gone for ABBA.
I love ABBA.
Go on.
I just love ABBA. It's just brilliant, isn't it? Like it's very Pride as well. There's always a drag queen singing ABBA. Like everywhere you go, you know,
Yes.
like my favourite place ever is Via on Canal Street in Manchester.
Yeah.
And every time there is an ABBA, you cannot go out in the gay scene and not hear ABBA.
Do you know, it's so funny. I was in the Vauxhall Tavern last night and Myra Dubois sang Mamma Mia. You know, you're right.
You've got
and
it.
we all love it.
Yeah, and it's just so feel good.
Yeah.
It's just so feel good. And I think especially when you're out in, you know, in the gay scene and whatnot, people are just free and happy enough to dance to ABBA as well. Like everyone just loves it.
You mentioned the wonderful gay scene.
Yeah.
In Manchester, which I'm such a huge. If I didn't live in London, I'd be in Manchester. I love Manchester. Yeah. How is the gay scene as far as the trans issue, and do you feel accepted? Has it, you know, because it's a relatively new thing, isn't it? So I mean, do we have a lot? Where are we at within the LGBTQ plus community?
I think in life, trans is where gay was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, it's very much you are the attacking kids and I don't want you in the toilet and, you know, just putting all of these derogatory terms on trans people.
Yeah.
Just like they did with gay people 30 years ago, just like they did with people of colour 60 years ago. Yeah. You know, it's just this is what they're doing to these people now. And so I think that's kind of where we are with society. I think within the LGBT community, we have more support than ever. Obviously, there's, you know, the occasional people who don't, you know, who like to remain with the LGB and they don't want that, but that's like a massive minority, I think. So I think in the majority of situations and areas, there's so much support there and so much people speaking out for trans rights right now, you know, as with allyships and within the LGBT community. So yeah, I definitely think that it's definitely my favourite place to be.
As a community, what have we got to do? What work have we still got to work on?
I think we've still got to remember that there is still work to do. You know, I think that some people don't understand why we have Pride or what I think it's really important to remember that history and appreciate it and keep doing it, because just because we're where we're at now doesn't mean we're anywhere where we need to be, and it's so important to keep banging that drum, so to speak, but to try and do that in the right way and not in a way that just shouts and screams. I think it's in a way of having these conversations and changing one mindset at a time. That's what I believe, because if you change one, you change 100, and they take that away and it spreads and it builds, and that's what happens. And that's the experience that I've had, which is why I will always have a conversation with anybody. So yeah, I just think it's about not forgetting. And I don't think we are doing that, but I think it's important to keep that going and keep educating the people coming up now who are, you know, they're not having to think about, oh well, I can't come out, because, you know, there are these people ahead of me, you know, who have paved that way, and I think it's so important to keep paving that way.
It's so interesting you mentioned the 30 years ago thing, because that's when I came out, and, you know, my parents were scared, and they were frightened, and they questioned my happiness, and my mum said some terrible things, which she now denies. However, she did say it, and I do remind her. But it was because it was there were scary times. We didn't have role models. We still had the HIV shadow and stuff, and but bit by bit over the years it's got better and better and better. So you think we will get there?
Oh, well, we're not going to go anywhere. No one's going to shut us up. And in my opinion, the government don't create change. We create change at ground level by changing one mindset at a time.
Okay. And
that works in my eyes, and I think we keep doing that, because you can't have 50,000 people at a Pride and then go, oh well, that's really wrong.
Yes,
it's just not. It doesn't work. It's not real. Like these people are human beings, and that's how they feel. And there's nothing more powerful, in my opinion, than living your truth and inspiring other people to do the same.
What's the next song on your list? What should we go for?
Kenny Rogers.
Oh, look at that smile.
Kenny
Okay.
Rogers. I love a bit of Kenny Rogers.
This is The Gambler, isn't
Yes.
it? This is very powerful, these lyrics.
I know,
Isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Tell me about this.
Well, as I was talking about my dad before, I was always like just wanted to be just like my dad, and he played me this song, I think when I was in high school. I think when I was having a bit of trouble in high school and just sort of trying to figure things out as you do as a teenager, and obviously not knowing how I felt about being trans then either. And he played me this song, and it's like a chord for life. I love it because it's like a reminder that, you know, this is life, and you have to figure this out, and you have to choose your paths and make your decisions and own them, and go into things authentically and stay true to you.
And there's this lovely line about know when to walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
In this song, it's like some really clever, really great
yeah.
life advice.
Yeah,
isn't it?
because when you're thinking about, you know, a relationship or a job or a toxic situation, you have to find the strength to. It's like anything. It's like grief. It's like transitioning. You have to find the strength to go, that's not for me anymore, or that part of my life is over, and I have to make room for this new bit. And that's a lot of the time that's terrifying and uncomfortable, but it achieves so much, and there's so much growth there.
Can I ask you, by the way, relationship-wise, how you doing? Are you single?
I am single.
Am I allowed to ask these questions?
Of course
I don't
you
know.
are. You can ask me whatever you want.
Okay. Is it difficult to meet people, or are you single because you want to be single? I just wonder.
I'm single because I want to be single right now, because I've been very focused on surviving and
on your journey,
and building Jaxon and forming this identity that I'm happy with. Because I was in several relationships before as a gay woman, and I realised now what I was looking for and what I was searching for in those things. And so I'm at a point now where I'm very ready for that, but it's scary as well. It's frightening, because there's obviously like parts of my body that I still feel very insecure about, but then at the same time, you know, the people, situationships that I've been in since transitioning, they have only been with to identify them, straight women. And I think a lot of people get really confused on, you know, oh, does it make me a lesbian if I fancy you, or does it make me, or whatever, and they attach sexuality with gender identity, and it's so different. You know, people are attracted to an energy, whether that's a masculine or a feminine energy. That's what they are attracted to, and I think that's why I love, you know, when people sort of meet me and don't know, they then either they like me or they don't, or they think I'm funny or they don't, or they fancy me or they don't, but that's then not going to go away when they then find out that. So I think in terms of dating, I don't like the fact that I would either have to like dating apps. I'm not on dating apps. I don't like the idea that I would have that the first thing someone would see about me is trans, because that potentially gets rid of a whole pool of people who I would probably have the better connection with.
That's interesting,
because they've never been around a trans person, or they've never known that. Because the people I've been in situationships with would have thought they wouldn't have been able to be with a trans man, but then all of that's gone out the window because they've just known the person and realised it's an energy. So that side of things does, you know, I find it difficult, because it's just one of those, innit? You just don't know where or when to do that. So I think I always find it easier to date people who I already know.
But you've got to know, they've got to know you.
But it's a difficult situation, I think, especially for trans people, because it's just.
I hope you don't mind me asking.
Of course not. No. It's important to talk. It's important to talk about it, and it's good to get it off my chest.
And I love the fact you've gone with Tina Turner. I saw the musical the other week. I mean, talk about somebody who constantly fought in her life and overcome really bad stuff. You know, she had a tough old life. Why have you picked her?
I think. I mean, well, one, for everything that you've just said, but two, I think this song is one that I just used to bounce around the dance floor, you know. And I think for me, music, a massive amount of music for Jess, pre-transition, was this just release of energy and shut off from the world. And Rolling on the River was one of them songs that I was just to bounce around the dance floor, and as soon as it would come on, everyone would like look at me and expect me to just go wild. So it definitely has a lot of memories attached to it, and it's just really, really feel good.
So tell me about the projects you've been working on, one of which I am dying to hear about this.
So I've been working on another project with Virgin Radio Pride, which is a chat between myself and Esther Jai, who I am very lucky to call a friend. And we basically got together and had a massive chat around online safety for children especially.
Now, she is...
Brianna... Esther Jai is Brianna Jai's mum. Right. Brianna unfortunately lost her life almost 2 years ago, and since then me and Esther have connected. Our values very much align in terms of trying to help people within society in terms of mental health and stuff like that. So we've done some different projects together, but this for Virgin Radio Pride is a chat between us about online safety for children. What Esther's experience was with Brianna, and how that impacted and affected her, how vulnerable it can make people, and the massive effects that it can have, and the horrendous things that people do online. It's just heartbreaking. So that's a really, really important and emotional conversation that I'm really, really proud of, and I hope that it will help people a lot.
And you've got to know her. I just think I've seen some of the interviews. I can't wait to hear this special. But she is, she is such a brave person, and is doing so much good. Yeah. By speaking out and using this devastating thing that's happened, but turning it around. And don't you think?
Oh, she's absolutely incredible. The strength and the empathy that she shows is unbelievable, and I think that's very much why we connected and why we've become very good friends. I immediately wanted to raise money for her campaign, which is why we did the Live Your Truth event earlier in the year, because it is so important, and being mindful is what this society needs more than anything else, especially when it comes to online trolling, and the amount that I get, the amount that she gets, the amount of the especially in terms of Brianna and that situation. You think, how can you do how
so
can you troll?
It's a massive problem, is it? And it's not being solved, is that right?
No, it's not.
Is it getting worse?
I think so, yeah, because people just have a free-for-all on social media of I can say what I want. In my opinion, you should have to attach your passport to your accounts, because there is just a zero consequence.
And be accountable.
Yeah, exactly, because people think, oh, well, it's just my opinion. Well, times that by 1 million, and that's someone potentially taking their own life because they feel hated by the world. And it's the impact of it is massive, and people don't see that until you are subject to it. In the public eye for some reason.
How do you deal with the trolls? You say you get a lot.
I think because I transitioned into prison, and I was very used to not having abuse about being trans, because they were actually brilliant over that through having the conversations and being honest, but used to having abuse in my face, physically, from a human being threatening my life or threatening my safety. So I think when it comes to keyboard warriors, it kind of just goes over my head. But more than anything, I think if I can be the person who others can see, never ever replying to a troll or saying anything or reacting, then they will know that actually it's okay, I don't have to listen to you. I can have a life, I can have a career, I can be happy.
That's how to deal with it then, is it? It's ignore them, never
It's a
engage.
black hole, because in my opinion, people like that, they just want to drag you down, they want to drag you into that hole. And especially trans people, for me, they are a representation of living an authentic life, and for a lot of people that's a reminder that they are not doing that, and that just starts to create anger and whatever else. And you only ever get hate from below. It's never from someone doing better than you. It's never from someone who's really happy, and it's never that. It's someone who is miserable and wants to drag you down that hole. So and it's not nice.
Your final track is Elton John.
Yeah.
I'm Still Standing.
Icon.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Absolute icon.
What a song to end this conversation. I really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so much.
No, I really enjoyed meeting you.
I mean,
too.
I've given you a million questions.
It's all right.
You haven't
I'm sure we'll do it again.
I know. Well, I hope so. We can do another hour with you. But tell me about this song. Tell me about him.
I just love Elton John. Elton John is like the pinnacle of just being unapologetically you. And I really, really fell in love with this song actually when I watched the film.
Rocket Man.
Yeah, Rocket Man. The film is one of my favourite films that I've ever watched, and it just really sort of, when you start to listen to lyrics about just being you, and that's you just need to just be unapologetically you, and that's so powerful to me. And when you talk about I'm Still Standing, it's it's very much tied into why I have a butterfly on my neck. It represents transition. We often fail to recognize that you have to go through absolute hell to achieve something so beautiful sometimes, and I think when you talk about and listen to I'm Still Standing, that's very much sort of attached to that.
And a big question, I love asking everybody this question because every single person gives me a different answer here.
Oh, God.
You're like, what's he going to ask?
I've not swore the whole time.
Oh, my God. Don't worry. I think you'll give me a great answer. But here we are, Virgin Radio Pride. It's Pride Season 2024. What does Pride personally mean to you?
That's a big question.
Sorry. You know the way I say, it's like Columbo, isn't it? One more thing. One more question.
Pride. Oh, it could mean so much, though. It's so much. Pride means so much. It's just, for me, it's somewhere that it's probably one of the first places that I ever felt like this is okay and this is safe and this is, I belong here. And I think all we crave in life is that sense of belonging. And if you're in a place where you feel accepted, safe and loved, you will thrive, whether that's at home, in your job. And Pride is very much an environment like that, and I think it is such a safe space for so many people. And like I said before, I don't think there's anything more powerful than living your truth. Virgin Radio.